Corey had been trying for years to make a name for himself as a comedian. His performances were often met with polite chuckles or awkward silences, and his routine never seemed to find the right note. He was starting to feel like he'd hit a wall. It was a late night after an open mic at one of the smaller comedy clubs in the city when Corey found it. The club was empty, except for the staff cleaning up after the last show. Corey lingered by the stage, hoping to rehearse some new material he had been working on. As he walked behind the curtain to grab his jacket, something caught his eye in the back storage area. On top of a cluttered shelf, partially hidden beneath a pile of old promotional posters and discarded props, was a battered notebook. The leather was scuffed, the edges worn, and the paper inside was yellowing with age. The sight of it sent an odd chill through Corey. He flipped it open and started reading the first few pages. The jokes were dark. Hilariously dark. It was the kind of material that could push the boundaries, that could make a crowd laugh even when they felt uncomfortable. Every word seemed to hit the mark in a way that Corey's own material never had. The jokes felt different, though, too personal. Too much like the comedian had lived through every single one of them. Without a second thought, Corey slipped the notebook into his bag. He'd need it for tonight's show. This was the break he'd been waiting for. The next night, Corey walked into the club, the notebook tucked under his jacket. He stood backstage, watching the other comedians take the stage. He felt a pang of insecurity, but he shook it off. When it was finally his turn, he walked out onto the stage with newfound confidence. The moment he started his set, the crowd's reaction was electric. His jokes hit hard, and the audience roared with laughter. He couldn't believe how well they were landing. These jokes were everything he'd been missing, and for the first time in a long time, he felt like he had found his true voice. He repeated the set the next few nights, perfecting the delivery. The crowd ate it up, and Corey began to gain more traction, his popularity growing as word of his unique material spread. But after a few nights, something unsettling began to happen. He started seeing a man in the back of the club. At first, he thought it was just a fan, maybe someone who liked his jokes a little too much. But the man was always there, watching him with an unnerving intensity. He never spoke, never moved, just stood at the back of the room, eyes fixed on Corey. At first, Corey tried to brush it off. He was just paranoid. But as the man kept showing up, that feeling of unease gnawed at him. One night, after a particularly successful set, Corey caught sight of the man standing near the back door. Corey's skin crawled as he tried to ignore it and made his way out the back exit. A few days later, after another set, Corey returned to his car in the parking lot. He was exhausted, but the buzz from the crowd still kept him on a high. As he approached his car, something caught his eye. A folded piece of paper tucked under the windshield wiper. His heart skipped a beat. Corey reached for the note, hands trembling, and unfolded it slowly. "I know what you've done. You can't hide from me. You'll pay for stealing my work." His blood turned cold. The handwriting was unmistakable. He had seen it before, inside the pages of the notebook. Corey's first instinct was to laugh it off. A prank. Someone messing with him. But the more he thought about it, the more the reality set in. He had stolen someone's material, someone who clearly wasn't okay with it. The man from the back of the club, he realized now, was the person who had written the jokes. The next night, Corey returned to the club. His mind was racing. He couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. He walked into the back door and was met by Greg, the club's manager, who had been in the business for years and had seen every kind of performer come through. "Hey, Corey, can I talk to you for a sec?" Corey walked over to him, wiping his palms on his pants, trying to keep his nerves in check. "You've been killing it lately, kid," Greg said, offering a faint smile. "But listen, something's off with your material." Corey's heart dropped. "What do you mean?" Greg leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "Those jokes you're doing, they're not yours. I can tell." Corey froze. "What are you talking about?" Greg sighed, looking more serious than Corey had ever seen him. "I've been in this business too long, Corey. The way you're landing some of those punchlines, that's not you. I've seen the same stuff before. Who are you stealing from?" Corey felt his stomach tighten. I'm not stealing anything. These are my jokes." Greg narrowed his eyes. "No, kid, you're not that good. You know the difference between borrowed and original material, right?" He paused, his eyes now sharp with concern. "I'm just saying, be careful. Whoever wrote those jokes doesn't seem like the type you want to mess with." Corey felt the heat rise in his face. I can't be stealing. This is all me, Greg. I just found the material. Greg's expression remained unreadable, but he didn't push further. Just be careful, all right? It wasn't until he was home that he decided to do some research. That's when he stumbled across an article from a year ago, one that sent chills down his spine. The headline read, "Local comedian sentenced for murder. Tom Reynolds, known for dark comedy, convicted for killing fellow comedian." The article went on to describe a notorious comedian named Tom Reynolds, who had been convicted and imprisoned for the brutal murder of another comedian. What stood out to Corey was a mention that Tom had been known for writing highly controversial and deeply personal material. It was the same style as The Notebook. Tom had recently been released from prison after serving time for his crime. The article even mentioned that Tom had been known to confront people who used his material. Corey's hands trembled as he read the article over and over. The name on the notebook, the jokes, the man in the club. It all started to click. He had stolen from Tom Reynolds. And now Tom was out. And Corey was next on his list. That night, after another set, Corey returned to the club. His thoughts were racing. He had no idea what to do. As he approached the stage, he saw the man again. Corey made his way off stage, his heart pounding in his chest. The man's footsteps echoed behind him as he walked quickly down the hallway, his breath quickening with each passing second. He could feel the man getting closer, but he didn't dare turn around. "We need to talk," the man said, his voice low, dangerous. Corey froze. He knew who this was. Tom. Tom Reynolds. The man who had written the jokes. The man whose life Corey had stolen. "I didn't mean to," he stammered, but Tom's glare cut him off. "You've stolen my life's work? You think you can take what's mine and walk away unscathed?" Tom snarled. "You're going to regret this, you piece of shit." Tom reached into his pocket and pulled out a switchblade. Corey's body went cold with fear. He knew there was no reasoning with Tom. He needed to run. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, Corey sprinted down the hallway toward the exit. Corey flung open the back door and bolted into the alley, the darkness surrounding him. He heard Tom's angry shouts growing closer. "You'll pay, bitch! You'll pay!" But then, as he rounded the corner, he saw the flashing red and blue lights of a police car. "You think the cops will save you?" Tom spat, but he didn't approach. The officers drew their guns as Tom slowly put down his switchblade. The officers quickly handcuffed him, pulling him away from Corey. As the police led Tom away, Corey heard the chilling words again. "This isn't over." Corey was never the same after that night. The laughs, the fame, the stolen material, none of it mattered anymore. The fear had burrowed deep into his mind. The police had handled it, sure, but something inside him had broken. Tom Reynolds would spend the rest of his life in prison, but Corey knew that the terror would never fully leave him.